Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whatever time you happen to be watching this, I hope you're having a wonderful day. What I'm going to try to do today is run through the superhero's journey and to get you all to start thinking about the question of whether it's propaganda, thought provoking fun, or something in the middle. And we're going to be doing just a few things with the text, and those of people in class are going to be spending a little time researching the authors that uh, McDonald cites. But for the purpose of this, I'm going to try to run through fairly quickly just how we should respond to this text and how we should work through this text to complete the paper. As always, I'm not a professional YouTuber. You just heard me stammer and stutter a little bit. It's entirely possible that this video will be interrupted and I'm not going to do any editing. And second of all, because I'm not a professional YouTuber, I am not trying to monetize this. I am trying to make this video available for my students to help them get lecture notes. So all borrowed images and quoted text are used for educational purposes. It's not monetized. I think step one, whether I'm talking about propaganda, whether I'm talking about just general nonfiction, um, and with what McDonald is trying to do is identify a problem. McDonald starts out with the Watcher, a real character from Marvel Comics, and the Watcher looks at Earth and he says that it's a primitive world, but it is filled with much potential. I don't really like McDonald's caricature of the art of the Watcher here. I much prefer the Jack Kirby version. But I bought the book, I'm assigning the book, so who am I to judge? Then the Watcher starts talking about, you know, a fate which your own foolish breed seems headed for, and that is being savage and warlike, and the idea that nobody's going to intervene is, I think, hinted at here. We have the potential to screw ourselves over. And I think I'm being sarcastic with a savage and warlike humans really question, because obviously I think it's a pretty accurate depiction of who we are when we're at our worst, when we aren't appealing to the better angels of our nature. But if we take away the whole race, a lot of times humans just fight amongst themselves. Even if it's a found family, and found family is a little bit strong here because um, Johnny and Sue are siblings, but still, the idea behind it is we have this found family and they're going to fight amongst themselves. And as those fights keep going and going and going, it's entirely possible that they'll blow up into much larger things and risk the fate of savagery. Iron Man is discovering that everybody is suddenly negative. And the suddenly part, I think, is kind of apropos to where we are in the year of our Lord 2024. You can see from the link that this was November 19th of 2023. Politicians and billionaires and average Americans are itching for a fight. If you look at that last line, Americans of all political persuasions are increasingly okay with political violence. It's entirely possible that the Watcher is correct. We are living in a negative zone. So, McDonald, as part of his analysis, or if by the time you get to the end you decide it's propaganda or something else, certainly seems to have identified a problem that is accurate. Americans are living in a negative zone. Obviously, once identified the problem, one has to offer a solution. Solution number one: act like a child. Don't look for signs, don't look for experiences. Become like a child. See everything with awe. The second part of his solution is, Doom, this is your lucky day because I've got nothing. Nothing but love for you, baby. Telly Savalas in the 1960s uh, played a character named Kojak. And if I recall correctly, Kojak would suck on the lollipop and tell everybody nothing but love for you, baby. And he anticipates the objections. If you find this ending too mushy, and if you find his solutions in general too mushy, remember that we're all human. And because we're all human, we certainly need love. And because we're all human, we probably should look at the world with a little more awe and a little more reverence than what we do. So he's anticipating the objections. This is part of good argument. Whether one is arguing something that everybody believes or whether one is pushing propaganda and making an argument that way, this is part of argument. Anticipate objections and try to answer those objections before they can overwhelm your argument. For today's comment, those of you who won't be in class, just toss in a real brief 1 or 2 sentence. Are we all superheroes at some level? Why or why not? Real brief, nothing fancy. Step 3. MacDonald uses a bunch of literary and scholarly tools. Those add weight, those add gravitas to his argument. And I think it's important to make sure that anytime one is trying to make an argument, again, and when one is trying to argue that something is propaganda, one has to be able to talk about separating those scholarly tools or show how those scholarly tools are used for, I guess I'll use the word nefarious, a nefarious purpose. The heroic quest. Heroic quest, and I'm boiling this down very, very briefly. If you want to deal with the heroic quest in full, take the mythology class. But the hero doesn't know what to do. You'll notice that Reed claims to be lost. The hero sometimes has a mentor. You'll notice here that the Watcher and Reed agree on each other, and the Watcher has Reed follow him. The and needs to get off of the slide. I'm only mortal. The hero goes on a quest. Here they're going into the 4th dimension, and the mentor is optional. The hero descends into darkness. I think this picture is pretty self-explanatory. And the hero emerges changed. Here, the whole group that was fighting amongst itself is now full of nothing but love. Everybody is happy. We have Johnny being almost angelic as he flies above them. And he goes back to the childlike element here as well. Notice it's on regular notebook paper. It's not the greatest artistic drawing. He is trying to capture the feel of being a young kid in love with superheroes. We have something scholarly to tie the solution into the problem, to try to tie everything together, to try to illustrate that he is trying to make an argument that could be considered educational, that could be considered something more than mere propaganda. He goes on, and again, here is where I think we might be talking about propaganda a little bit more. The double duty nostalgia. The romance comics, okay, 10 cents for a comic. Life was grand, life was wonderful. Reed's entered the romantic zone. He's looking for love. He's gotten someplace there. For old folks like me, it's a reminder that superheroes and horror were driven from the shelves in the 1950s. And so romance comics back in the day were one of the most popular types of comics, along with some westerns. They dominated the shelves in the 1950s. But MacDonald isn't talking about romantic love. And Reed's going to find that out. And so this nostalgic reference lets us know that we're going to deal with something from the past, but it's not what we're actually talking about. The No Prize. Marvel actually sent out no prizes to readers who spotted mistakes in continuity or mistakes in an issue. And on the letters page, people were asking for the no prizes all through the 1960s and early 1970s. The no prize in the book has the character talking about need, seek, and desire nothing. And that idea of nothing being in the envelope, the idea of no prize, he's using the nostalgia, and it has a double duty to get to his point about seek nothing, desire nothing, move on from wanting stuff, go for love, straight and simple, not the romantic kind, but that deep, awe-inspiring kind. And then there were the ads. The commercial zone, obviously, McDonnell wants us to believe that, commercialism is not going to solve the problem. All of this stuff, all of these free prizes aren't going to solve the problem. But there is a question in my mind about, why did he pick these ads that sell grit and ask people to, fill out the little form and mail it in and walk around and sell the weekly newspaper and earn as much as $1 to $5 in cash every week, instead of the ones with x-ray glasses or any of the other ads that populated the news or the comic books way back in the day. And he doesn't forget Mom. If we're going to do nostalgia, never forget Mom. She encouraged creativity. She made silkscreen Marvel t-shirts. They were her Fantastic Four. Everybody should go, aw. It's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. There were a couple of things with the nostalgia that did make me wonder what he was doing. The no prize got me to I need nothing, I seek nothing, I desire nothing. And I looked at the face of the watcher, and as an old man, I remembered Sergeant Schultz from Hogan's Heroes, TV show from the late 60s. I see nothing, I hear nothing, I know nothing. I'm not going to do the Sergeant Schultz accent. The late John Banner was a comedic genius by delivering those lines. And did he really have to make the watcher look that much like Sergeant Schultz? Or is it just my imagination? I'll leave that up to you. And then the line, "Where's the love?" Why use the line from the Black Eyed Peas song? I mean, Ella Funk was a nice album, but why use the line from the Black Eyed Peas? There should have been a different way to make that work. So even in the efforts of nostalgia, maybe he just went a little too far. Maybe I'm a little too cynical. Maybe I'm a little too picky. But if you're writing and you're trying to get to nostalgia, please make sure to avoid the unintended consequences that McDonnell seems to have walked into. This is the most important part, and perhaps I should have led it with this and moved everything else to the end. But what's the core? What's at the core of what McDonnell's doing? So who said this? Well, according to McDonnell, it's a Chinese proverb. I'm just going to urge everybody to be careful about Chinese proverbs, to be careful about quotations from Mark Twain, quotations from Einstein, quotations from almost any famous person, because a lot of times, A, they perhaps never said it, and B, if they did say it, we don't know the context. What was the context of everything? And if I can give you the quickest of all examples, A lot of people run around loving to quote, "This above all to thine own self be true," and they attribute it to Shakespeare. However, Shakespeare didn't say it in his own life. Shakespeare had a character named Polonius say it in the play Hamlet. And I'm of the firm belief that Polonius was a windbag, and listening to Polonius might not be the smartest thing in the entire world. So, always, is it actually a Chinese proverb? Did it actually come from Einstein? And next, what was the context? Who the heck said, surrender to what is, let go of what was, have faith in what will be? Sounds good. But who is this person? Who is Sonia Riccati? And also, if we look her up, and people in class are going to spend time looking up all of these people, what are the laws of attraction? Moving on, and I'm going to run through these fairly quickly. You are the stillness beneath the mental noise. You are the love and joy beneath the pain. Who is Eckhart Tolle? Why should, who is he? What does he have in common with Sonia, and I forgot her last name already. What does he have in common with the previous slide? And what does he have in common with the person who said, who we are is the love inside us? Marianne Williamson. Who is she? What does she have in common with Eckhart Tolle? And the same with do not look for signs, do not look for experiences, do not be so complicated, become like a child, see everything with awe. Who's Robert Adams? What does he have in common with all the rest of them? The same with the Maharaja here. Who is he? And then move on. Why quote the guy twice? Why does he get a double dip and nobody else does? What does that say about what McDonald is trying to do? The same with, can you walk on water? You have done no better, or can you fly in the air? You have done no better than a bug. You have done no better than a straw. Conquer your heart, then you may become somebody. Who is this person? What does this person have to do with the previous bunch? And the same with this one. Who is Byron Katie? And yes, it's a she. Who is she? And the same thing here. Ebenezer Scrooge, the characters at the end of A Christmas Carol, says, I'm light as a feather, I'm happy as an angel, I'm as merry as a schoolboy. But he didn't finish it up with for everything that lives is holy. Life delights in life. That's William Blake, a poet, a mystic. What does one get when one combines these two? How does one get the Charles Dickens, William Blake combination? What's gained by combining them? What is the preponderance of the evidence of these people? What should we be doing with all of that? What's at the core of what McDonald's trying to tell us? For the paper, step one, determine the core. And I think that's done by what qualities do most of the author's key sources share? How can that unity be identified without stereotyping? I think it's important not to make the logical fallacy of stereotyping people, but to frame their arguments in their own words. You should also always look, is the problem that the author identified actually a problem? Will the author's proposed solution work? But most importantly, I think it's this last one. Should one accept all of what the author says, and why? Should one reject all of what the author says, and why? Look, some of you might be totally on board with McDonald. Some of you might think that McDonald is going to lead us down the road of perdition. Should we accept parts of what the author says? If so, which parts should we be accepting? Or finally, should we attempt to adapt what the author says? Illustrate how adaptation is possible and preferable. All of those are options, but think about what exactly is it that we should be doing. And your paper, in a lot of ways, is the second checkbox. How can that unity be identified without stereotyping? And deal with the last set of questions. If you want, you certainly can respond to, is it a problem? Will the solution work? Is there a better solution? That can be part of it. But the purpose of this paper, I think more importantly, is it propaganda? Are there logical fallacies? The questions at the bottom of this slide, the questions in the prompt itself, should get you to that conclusion as you write your paper. If you have any questions, please let me know. Hope everyone has a good day. Hope to see you in class the next class period.